Hey everybody, welcome back to Scribbles with Jonathan. Today what we're going to do is watch me draw. It's basically every video, isn't it? What this is again a character for those of you that aren't familiar named Jesop King, one of my personal characters. What I like to do is have certain characters that I've made tell certain stories, and I'm a big fan of space. Anything that has to do with space, science, and stuff like that. So the character I designed, not that he looks like he should be in space or anything, but basically the character that I have chosen to tell those stories is this guy here, Jesop King. And you can go to the website, I believe it's jesopking.com. You'll see the link in the bottom if you guys want to check it out at all. But regardless, I have a new mini comic that I'm going to be working on, or maybe it might be a little bit bigger, maybe 20 pages or something like that, of a regular sized comic book. And that one's called The Sword of Sagan. And anybody that's into space, you have to know who Carl Sagan is. And I'm a huge fan of that guy as well, the late Carl Sagan, I should say. And a good friend of mine named Tony, he's the one who introduced me to Carl Sagan. Basically, that cat changed my life in a lot of ways. And so thank you, Tony, if you're listening. But enough of that stuff. Let's just talk about the technical stuff that I'm doing here. So I did a regular sketch at work one day. I don't know, 15-minute sketch maybe. And I brought it home, scanned it into Photoshop. Not necessarily because I wanted to retain the line quality or anything, but I like the design and kind of like what I was going for with it. The sword and stuff, I still need to actually get a design for the sword. This is like a ridiculous looking rectangle shaped, it's a really bad looking sword, but it gets the idea across and things that I'll remember whenever I get the chance to actually come back to tell this fun little story here. And so I brought it home, scanned it into Photoshop, and then I took that Photoshop file here and brought it into Manga Studio. I believe this file right here is 600 DPI. Not that that really matters. I just find to get a little bit of a cleaner line. And basically inked over that sketch. And the sketch was pretty tight. And that's about it. So right now, we're just going through it. And I got the tight line work on there. And I'm just adding some beefy line weights to everything. And once the lines are finished here, I'm going to actually take these, export it as a TIFF. That way it's still a bitmap, and then open it up in Photoshop and start coloring. I didn't want to add too many line like shadows in here that I normally do in my work, simply because I wanted to see if I could get away with trying to do it with just color. And I'm not necessarily sure I succeeded. I did learn some things in doing that, and we'll get there as we go. So here you go. We're into Photoshop right now. Quickly, all I did was I imported the actual layer into Photoshop. Then at the very top, or at least you can double click on the layer that your line art's on, and then I would change it to multiply, and then put all your your color underneath it. Now what that does is it makes it so that your dark lines over top show over top of your color. And I'll get into another video if you guys wanted to know how to color the actual line art itself. I do actually do that towards the end to color his sword. But I'll make a new layer here just called flats, and I'll just do that. Put the flat base mid-tone of the color in there. And then what I'll do next, and you guys will see me here, is I'll grab a new layer and put my shadows there, and then grab another layer above the flats to put my highlights. And I usually like to just quickly go over it with an airbrush, just to kind of have a gradient look to it, and then I'll use a lasso tool and get some sharp lines in there. And I don't want to say jump the gun, but I was just testing some stuff out here where what you do is you grab your gradient tool, and in this case it's like a radial gradient just to give it a little bit of a curve to it, and you pick your mid-tone on your foreground and background color. Okay, now on your foreground color you just brighten it a bit, and your background color you darken it a bit. That way it's still staying within the same range that you established already, and then you just pop in the quick gradient there, as you can see. Now what I do here is I actually turn off the layers a little bit so I can just see where my shadows are going to go. I find this helps because it keeps things clear. You know exactly where everything is that you wanted it to go. I usually don't like to go too many shades into a shadow, but this one it was just getting to the point where things are just starting to blend too well, and I just wanted to break stuff up a little bit. Give him a little bigger of a cast shadow on his nose, on his knuckles, and all that cool stuff. Just fill it in with a brown. And actually another really cool trick you could do is if you wanted to have like this uniform shading over everything, you could just do what I just did there with the brown, and then go to image adjust, I think it's hue saturation, and you can adjust the actual color of your shadow. And I've seen a lot of people do this in animation and stuff where they'll actually do that with like a purple or a yellow. and they'll just use that as either their highlight over everything or their shadow on everything. And here I'm just throwing in some darker blue again for his costume, but you know, I wasn't really feeling this. I do add some airbrush at the bottom, kind of left it open just to give it like a shadow look, but I wanted to have a little bit of like, I don't want to say dust, but maybe some mist or something in there. So I just quickly grabbed the lasso tool to cut in some shapes, like where his pecs would probably be and stuff like that. And then I just kind of went over top of it a little bit more with a darker purple, just to get, just to pull it and to soften up those lines just a little bit, because they are a little out of focus. That hard gradient line right there on the left-hand side of above his eyebrow really bugging me, and I'm hoping that I got rid of it. Pretty sure I did. And again, that whole area with the sword's got to get redone once I actually go back to write the story. And here I go right there, making the highlights of where I want the highlight on his face to be. And again, I'll grab that highlight color that I use for the gradient, and I'll just lower the opacity to your airbrush about 70%, and then just kind of slowly paint it in there to get that gradient look. Or you can actually, if you're using like a tablet, use pressure sensitivity, right? So what you'll do is you'll start as far away from the light source as possible, and then as you get closer towards the edge, just press a little harder, and it'll actually make a smooth transition. It's a lot easier than I'm making it sound. And you can actually continually build up gradients that way too. Don't feel like you're ever locked in. It's digital, right? So you always get to get in there and get that dirty work. Now this actually bugged me too, because there's a saying that Carl Sagan had that I love. It's billions and billions, and he's always talking about stars and billions of galaxies. And I wanted to have that on the actual sword, but I was thinking red, because Mars, you know, Carl Sagan always talked about, not always, but not just space, but Mars is probably the closest thing that here on Earth, the first place I will ever actually go to if we're lucky. And I wanted to make it red. Red's, you know, contrasts the blue character as well. But as I was doing this, it started to look like a lightsaber, and, you know, it's totally not what I wanted. And I didn't want to spend all night or all day, you know, all my free time just doing this. I just wanted to hammer out an idea and just kind of share it with people, see what they thought of it, get some feedback. And again, whenever you're doing all this stuff, this is the best part of making comics or stories, in my opinion. Right here, what you'll be doing is you're world generating and you're idea generating. You're not necessarily telling the story you're going to tell just yet, but what you're doing is you're getting ideas and throwing logs on that fire to tell that story, if that's making sense. Just by doing this, I mean, I've come up with multiple ideas just for this character alone that I probably wouldn't have got just by sitting down and writing a script. When I get down to actually working on this book, then, or this, you know, quick story, it depends on how much time I have for that, then I'll sit down and script it. But the hard work, the ideas, you know, like side characters, or, you know, just other things, just like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. In the previous video, you guys heard me talk, I was designing a cover, and what I was talking about was these little floating gadgets that are around Jesop. And what those allow me to do is not only make him like a gadget person, you know, like he's got little tech around him and gadgets and stuff, but it also allowed me to turn those little devices that are around, those little floating characters, and actually turn them into characters. You know, they are machines and stuff, but they can also help tell the story. And I'm not sure I necessarily would have got that while I was writing the script. You know, when you want characters to bounce ideas off your main character and all that cool stuff, sometimes you miss out on certain things, you know, and just by adding those, you know, now I have another character that I can help tell a story. Jesop, in this case, he's not necessarily the guy that's, I guess I'd compare more to like a Han Solo meets Peter Pan, as weird as that sounds, you know, like the guy's, you know, he's got a good soul and stuff like that, but he's not really asking the big questions, so I could leave that up to other characters. But anyway, we're wrapping the video up. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Appreciate it. Keep reading comics, keep making comics, and we'll talk soon.